Next Wave Gaming. What's up, everyone? Wolfpack89 here from Next Wave Gaming. With us this week for the Wildcard review, we have Colme, Scotch737, and Shadow Venom from Next Wave Gaming, and Aduro from the Rambozos, from the North American team that has made it into the LAN. How you doing?
Good.
Thanks for joining us this week. Real quick, just a quick introduction. I'm Wolfpack89. I do a lot of the site dev, reaching out to players, some of the social media, and I do these shows with Next Wave Gaming. Colme?
I'm Colme. I write a lot of the ranked articles, and I'm also the support for our competitive team that we just started.
Scotch?
I'm Scotch737. I do the video editing for Next Wave Gaming, and I laugh a lot at Wolfpack.
Shadow Venom?
Hey, I'm Shadow Venom. I cover a lot of the analysis, mainly to do with EU, but I'm currently on the NA side, and I'm now starting to coach the team that Colme's on.
And Aduro, you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm Aduro. Most people probably know me from Dig Sub a while back, but I started my own Challenger Cup team in the Rambozos with the help of Meerkat, and I played mid lane for them.
Awesome. Well, let's get straight into it for this week. This is the second week of the wild card. We have our two land spots. For those of you who don't know, it is Rambozos and the Fat Chunks. They will be going to land in it's November, yeah, very soon in November, very quickly. So we will be covering that here in a little bit. But before we get into the roles like we always do, let's cover picks and bans. Let's look at this week first. There were 9 gods that had 100% involvement. Granted, there were only 3 games. But we had 9 gods with 100% involvement. They were Geb with 2-1, 2 picks, 1 ban. Ra 2-1, Nemesis 2-1, Freya 2-1, Janus 2-1, Nuwa 1-2. Thor 1-2, Zhonghui 1-2, Rom 3-0, and then Apollo was 2 picks, 0 bans. And I mean, so we have this 100% involvement, like I said, a second ago, but this really does, because there's only 3 games, it really does give us a good snapshot of these are the picks in NA, because you don't have too much variation this week with the smaller number of games. I mean, obviously Geb, Ra, all pre-nerf, Nemesis being more highly valued recently, Apollo, of course, being valued, Rom being valued. I mean, this is the snapshot of the NA picks.
I just find it strange that Janus was banned once, Zhonghui, Thor, and Nuwa get banned out twice.
Whoa. They're the wrong way around. Oh, no, wait.
No, that's right for
Janus
this week.
and
Yeah. That's this week.
Wait.
So, I mean,
I have 2 different images.
from a player perspective, Aduro, when you look at this, what do you think? Like, when you look at these picks and bans, what's your perspective on the snapshot that we get?
I see Nemesis is higher because Wolfie and Uknik enjoyed those. There's like Nemesis is probably Wolfie's best god, so he will prioritize that. He first picked it actually against us, and the Thor bans that came out, both of them were against our team, because Grishank is known really well for his Thor, along with his Kali, which was banned. Zong, the bans, those are our picks. We don't play Zong, at least not in the solo lane, and usually we don't get Nemesis, especially when teams, both Wolfie and Fat Chunks, they would first pick Nemesis, and in which that case we don't really want to give them that Nemesis Zong combo. So
Right.
Those bans came from us. I know that. And Nuwa is just her AoE damage late game if she gets farm, or not AoE damage, her ult damage is just ridiculous, and she's pretty much a safe farmer throughout the whole game with her range 3-1.
Yeah, so making more sense now. You have a good picture of that. So, Shadow Venom, you have the picks and bans for the overall. You want to go ahead and take us through that?
Sure, I mean, since there were only 9 games, quite a few of the gods were picked up quite a lot, but only Thor was picked up 100% of the time. He had 3 bans, 6 picks, giving him the 9 appearances. And then you have Freya, Geb, Janus, Nemesis, and Ra all getting 8 appearances. You had Freya with 3 and 5, which was less compared to what I see in EU, but I'm not surprised that Freya is a high priority. I see Geb with only 1 ban and 7 picks. I really do question that. I don't know why he wasn't banned. Janus is a high priority as well, with 3 and 5. I don't understand the value in Janus. That might be because I'm used to the EU, so I'm part of that not value Giannis thing. I mean, there is some value, but Nemesis with 4 and 4 also questionable because she's single target for the most part.
Yeah.
And then Ra being Ra with 3 and 5.
Yeah, Ra's Ra. Used to see Geb banned like completely.
100%. Yeah.
First pick, first ban, period. But the other one that I think is interesting is the Thor pick. Because if we look at what's happened over the past few weeks, it was Mercury.
Mhm.
And Degars played Thor. And other people would play Thor here and there, and nothing changed. The only thing that changed for Mercury was, correct me if I'm wrong, is that he has a smaller circle, which cuts down his lane, not really his jungle.
Yeah.
Well,
And all of a sudden, Thor, priority, 100%.
well, all right. You got to look at two things. All right, yeah, it's a nerf, and yeah, it does affect the picks, in my opinion. But Thor's passive, even if you do have a Geb on the enemy team, is very, very strong, especially if you get a good ult off and you can spin to win. You can spin right through somebody's shield. In other words, the damage is, what's the way to put it? It's absolute damage. In other words, you can ensure it if you hit your abilities. It's not something that may happen or may not happen. It's if you hit your abilities and you can hit your skill shots, it's gonna happen. Mercury, on the other hand, I think the reason he was being played so much is he's a really top hyper carry late game, but if you can't do that like little play in mind game in the picks and bans stage, is Mercury going solo? Is Mercury going ADC? Is Mercury going jungle? I don't think he's as viable. Because if you pick this, and this, and you absolutely know that Mercury's jungle, then you're going to draft a team comp to counter Mercury, even in late game.
Is Freya the new Mercury then? I mean, you pick up Freya, she's either going to go ADC or she's going to go into the jungle.
So. They showed up about the same time. Like the Freya Merc ADC was about the same time, when they both started gaining popularity, at least. And just the Merc ADC, it was a free. If you went ADC or solo, it was almost a free ticket into the late game, and allowing him to get beads and sprint, was unstoppable. There's nothing any mage or hunter could really do about it.
Well, cool. Anything else? Anybody want to talk about anything else within the picks and bans before we move on to talking about our ADCs for the week?
The Geb, why Geb isn't really getting banned out anymore? It's like, especially what we've been doing with the competitive team. I started telling everybody when we first started playing, ban Geb. Now, let him go, let him through. It's like, why? Let him through. We can fight against him. We can force him to use his shield early in the fight, or put it on somebody it doesn't need to be on, so we can focus somebody else. And my supports that I've been playing with lately are totally just out of there, like just out there. I've been playing a lot of tier support. So it's like, okay, Geb shield. You cleanse the Geb shield. Okay, everyone is now focused on, now Geb shield's down, big cooldown, focus on somebody else.
Yep.
So what I would do is I'd pull like a jungler or like an ADC. It's like, okay, go kill their mid laner. We'd have a Loki in the jungle, one shot Giannis or anybody else.
You can team strat around.
Exactly, and Geb is still strong. I'm not going to say he's bad.
Right.
But I've learned as a support player that Geb is strong, but if you can pick on him early in the early game, because his early game's kind of bad, you pretty much shut him down to mid game. Late game, he's going to be late game.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, Kome. It's just one of those things. Is the longer a god's out, the longer he's in the competitive scene, the more you get used to playing against that god.
Yep.
So you kind of build strats around it. Now you're starting to focus the correct targets. You're getting better at it. So yeah, I totally have to agree with you on that. It's just like, we see the fat chunks. Anytime they ban Geb and the enemy team picks up Athena, I said this last week, they go into Fenrir support, because that god picks on Athena so much, and I don't know why people haven't figured it out yet, but that's what they do, man. You can see it in the picks and ban stage. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and talk about our ADCs now. Just looking at your totals for the week. Let's pull up your totals here for the ADCs that are on this side. I'm looking at the wrong totals. Your first place ADC is going to go to Samshu. Second place is going to go to Meerkat. And third place will go to Wubba at 1605, 1445, and 1277. Paradox, although didn't compete this week, had a score of 1265. So Meerkat performing better than Paradox did within the two. Obviously, he only played 2 games and he only played 1 week. So it's skewed a little bit. But, of course, Rambozo's doing very well this week and securing their spot on the land, like we said before. But Samshu, going from a hunter who had some of the lowest scores in the SPL to the hunter with the highest scores in the SPL. Why?
Apollo.
The teams. Well, Apollo, but
Playing real hunters?
no, it's the 80 carries in the SPL. Like, are Zapman, Barra, Allied, whatever, all Snoopy, all of them are much better ADCs than Wubba and Meerkat and who else?
Paradox.
Paradox could hang with them. We lost him. Just the first week wasn't our best week, and I think he does fine against Samshu. He always does.
Good.
It's just
That's got to
we
be
didn't-
well going into the regionals, too. No,
yeah. Oh, we're not gonna play him, but yeah, we could.
That's true. So I mean, let's look at let's just look at some of the numbers, because player damage obviously being the thing that hunters really value. Samshu obviously having some tough time in his very last game, but he was playing Scylla. So your player damage it's going to be a little bit different because you got to get to the late game with that Scylla, and he only played for 20 minutes. So, but beyond that, we're looking at a total of 96k player damage. Second highest was Wubba at 68. He had the highest player damage per minute at 612. Meerkat, and I say he had the highest at 612 just because 2 games can skew it, but Meerkat ended up having 632. So very good performance, especially in the second game that was played today.
Yeah.
That was the long game.
Yeah, that game, it went for 41 minutes, but he was also playing Rama.
Mm-hmm.
And Rama deals out a ton of damage.
That third
crazy.
ult shot
She puts
it
out.
hurts so
Of
bad.
course, yeah.
You think you can survive it? No.
Nope, yeah, you just can't. And he pops the 1 and the 2, and you're, oh, look, I'm dead. Of course, you guys were also playing Thirst, too. It had one of their better games, actually, that I've seen them play in a while.
Yes.
But still unable to follow in, unfortunately for them. Structure damage, Samshu leading in that 118 structure damage per minute. Meerkat at 98, Wubba at 68, and Paradox at 29. All of that per minute. But it kind of gives you a good overarching picture of the top ADCs currently in the Wildcards. And we'll see how they end up hanging in the at the regionals. I mean, you guys Paradox. It will be back for the regionals.
Yeah, he won't sleep through his alarm.
Won't they sleep through his alarm this time? Cool, that would be good. But I mean, ADCs have been a good thing to watch in A this week. Like I said, it's also been cool to see Samshu play hunters. I mean, one of them was Cupid this week, but he played Apollo in one of the games today.
He plays a mean Cupid though. Gotta give him that.
Yeah,
Cupid's a bully.
Cupid is a bully.
Yes, he is. And you can't kill him if he keeps throwing them hearts out, man. It's just, I mean, if you don't have the rotations right, he's not gonna die. But
Yep.
yeah,
He has averaged 25 healing per minute though over the past 5 games.
I still
Just saying.
I still think he's one of the still a top-notch hunter. Yeah, I'll agree with you that in the SPL there are some higher caliber hunters, but still the guy does his job. He doesn't get caught out of position, and when you have to fear a Fenrir support and you can't really focus the hunter, it's kind of it kind of just opens up the door to let the ADC damage come in. So I'm happy for him, man.
Well, why don't we take that and we'll go straight into supports. You're speaking of Fenrir support. You had Aurora play Fenrir support twice, won both times, one this week, one last week. But let's talk about the supports. Colme, you want to give us our supports?
Sure. Our top support for the Wildcards was Aurora with a 1702. Right behind him is Chris Pocket with 1604. And then last is El Brochacho with 1488.
Yeah.
These, I'm just looking at just the overall stats. Aurora has been performing, I wouldn't say better than the others, but his team has helped. He's been helping his team perform a lot better. If you're looking at his damage taking per minute, he's taking 1723. So he's taking a little less damage than Chris Pocket, which is at 765, and El Brochacho at 728. But his damage mitigated is the highest with a 694. So that means he's utilizing his items a lot better than the other supports. And granted, I mean, Fenrir support is just annoying. He did play Geb 3 times, and the powerhouse that is Geb, because Geb's passive against the crits is huge. Yeah. So that the damage taken number on Geb is going to be a little lighter than if you got like El Brochacho when you played Ares or Athena. You're going to take a little bit less damage during that. But yeah, so he farmed pretty well. His gold per minute was 455, and the closest was Chris Pocket with 424. So he's keeping up with his farm, so he's being consistent. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is out of the supports, he's been pretty consistent. Granted, that's why I like, the tier supports or the Wukong supports or the, Mercury supports, is because you can be aggressive.
Right.
And Fenrir support, he's just on it. That brutalized early game does so much damage.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to point out, though, is he's not phenomenally ahead on any one thing except maybe player damage, but supports don't get much points for player damage.
Exactly.
He's a little bit ahead on almost everything, which is what separates him from Chris Pocket. So his farm's a little bit higher. His player damage is a little bit higher. He's a little bit behind on his damage taken, but he makes up for that with his mitigation. And he's done a little bit of structure damage. No support doing healing, but that's because Sylvanas isn't in the game now.
But again, all the supports are still around that 1500 mark.
Yeah, 1500 is right where you want to be as a support. So to see Aurora and Chris Pocket up at the 1600 and 1700 mark, just shows you, we've been talking about it for weeks back in the SPL, and even when the Wildcard started, the depth of support in NA is phenomenally good.
Yes. Well, and also, it's like, not to take anything away from him, but he died 18 times, Aurora, and Chris Pocket only died 17. The positioning of Chris Pocket this entire past 2 weeks was crazy.
I mean, it's only one less death.
Well, yes, but it's, if you look at his overall things, he's just barely behind Aurora.
Yeah.
Well, I think this week's was actually a lot better than the first week's.
Yes. He died very little.
Yeah, he got caught out a lot less this week.
Yes.
Well, he did die 8 times, Aurora dying 5 times. But he had far more assists.
Yes.
He had 22 assists this week, where Aurora only had 60. Yes. He had 6 more assists.
Well, that's because of the kills that he's also getting to, that Aurora's getting. But Brochacho, he died a lot. And unfortunately, that hurts because he's an aggressive support. Brochacho's like, especially with his Ares, I'm going to chain every single person I can, and I'm going to ult. And that happened to a lot of him. A lot of times, he used to get caught out a lot. He'd go into a fight and just get melted before his ult would pop. And that's why his score is like relatively low, is because of all that, the dying I think he did. But
absolutely. Well, we'll transition over on into the mid scores since we have a Duro here. Shadow Venom, you want to actually list off our mid scores for us?
Sure thing. Topping out this week is Hurrywin from Chunk, scoring 1381. Not too far behind is Ajora himself with 1342 on the Lambozos. And then 1293 for Jaco Malfoy on Thirst.
Yeah. Really close race between first and second. I mean, 40 points separating people is not much. I mean, that can come in the form of farm, player damage, structure damage, anything. And everything was extremely close. 458 farm, 441 farm for you, Aduro. And then 610 player damage, 590 player damage per minute. You took a little bit more damage at 512. He took 476. You mitigated also, but you also mitigated a little more at 163. He mitigated 155. You did a little bit less structure damage at 21. He did a little more at 53. I mean, just, again, same thing with the support. Little things added up to make the 40 point difference, but overall, very, very close.
Yep.
I think Aduro actually had a better deaths versus kills versus deaths ratio.
Yep, right there.
Yeah, you had a looks like Adora had a 22 overall, 22-16-37, where Herwind had a 17-17-47. So Herwind almost playing almost like a support,
Yeah.
and it had almost like the balanced KD, and then the over the board over the top
Yeah.
assist ratio.
I mean, you, Aduro, were averaging 4.4 kills. Herwin was averaging 3.4 kills. I mean, a full kill above him.
Yeah, and also 0.2% less deaths as well. Or
Yeah. Yeah. He was
So-
averaging more assists, but you had the kills.
which is huge. Especially I saw the Giannis plays that
Yeah.
Adora was doing, and I was scared.
You
That's why I
gotta,
did that guy.
you gotta convince Shadow that Yanis is a good guy to play.
Yeah,
Hey, Giannis.
and not Raw. I shouldn't play Raw. From what
Shouldn't
I'm
play
saying.
Raw.
No.
Let's see.
I have these like
You
up
lost
and down
both times with
swings.
Raw, yeah.
Yeah, I have these up and down swings with Raw, where like I play Raw a lot and I do really well, and then I get tired of him, so I don't practice him as much and don't want to play him, and then I start to play poorly on Raw when my team forces me to pick him because he's a good pick, and then that time, Raw tends to fall out of the meta for a bit, and then nobody plays him, and then I'm like, all right, I should start playing a game, and then probably all the other mids are around the same thought, so then I start playing him again, and then I start doing well on him, and then the cycle continues.
I think the thing with Raw, I know he's a great pick, but it's something I saw today actually. Raw actually, he's kind of like a really good jungler like a Thor. A Thor is great if he's ahead or even, but Raw, if he's not ahead, he can't really be that bully. His one's not gonna do that much damage to you. He can't like finish up a fight. Kind of like we watched the Boosh do so many times. So I can see where you're coming from on that. He's not like he's not the most safe passive mid laner. I think he's better in solo than he is in mid, but that's just because his ult doesn't do a ton of damage. At a mid Harvey fight, but
It needs items to do that turn damage.
Yeah. Though I see something here, Aduro.
Yeah.
9-2 is Kukulkan.
Mm-hmm.
Why? why would you pick Kukulkan? I hate that guy. I'm glad they nerfed him, but his damage is still there, and people
Yeah, it is.
estimate him like so much.
A slight. It's just the ult matters more, and that
Yes.
was the game against Thirst, and about I think every ult I hit was at least 2 or 3 people, and I think there's like 2 fights where Wubba he ran into the fight as Freya, and the second he got into the fight, he walked it into the back end of my ult and just one-shot him.
Yeah.
It happened like twice in that game.
I still think he's probably one of my favorites if I were to ever play mid. Just because it's like, okay, I'm gonna squall, tornado, turn around, I'm gonna go rotate. It's like, oh look, ult. If you're at mid Harvey.
What's funny now is even though that they nerfed where his damage applies on his tornado, people's running out of it now like quicker than they were before. I guess people before, oh, I'm in the tornado. Well, it's GG anyway. But now they're running either like directly one way or the other, and it's really easy to just follow right up with that ult. I mean, because if you've got them pinned on this side of the wall, they're gonna run towards the open spot. You just ult towards that direction, and it's so funny. I've seen people, not only you this weekend, but I think last weekend, we saw just you throw a tornado, you ult, and you would ult them back into the tornado, which was pretty hilarious.
We gotta reset that timer.
Yeah.
I think what also helped that game was Meerkat played Loki solo, and he got ridiculously fat. We gave him first blood on Chronos before Chronos hit 5, right before mid camps at like the 3-minute mark, and then from there Meerkat he got TP and he just got ridiculous farm, and almost every kill that I didn't get, he got. It was about 15 minutes, and we had 15 kills in, and me and him were the only ones with kills. But so the second they heard Loki or saw Loki join the team fight and go visible, they knew he was so huge that they had to group up, and at which point we had Geb that game, and Geb could just blink all, and my ult could follow up. So they were so afraid of Loki that they tried to group up and deal with the Loki when invisible. That way they would just automatically get they'd group up and let my ults and Geb ults become much easier.
I think that's a great way to transition into our solo, and we'll look at that game specifically first. That game on Loki, Meerkat ended up going 12-1-7 with a number that just blows my mind. He had 592 farm. You were talking about how well he got farmed that game. 592 GPM.
Yeah, I was listening to that game at work, and all I could hear the caster say was Meerkat.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Well, this week for solo lane, first place is going to go to Cyclone Spin. Chunks obviously dominating it, having all the wins. Wins do help. Second place, we'll give it. It goes to Meerkat at 625, but Mr. Makey this week, is it Mr. Makey or Mr. Mackey?
Whichever one it is in South Park.
Mackie.
Mr. Mackey. Okay. 1523 this week. 1625 from Meerkat last week, and Osmos coming in at 1258. Of course, there's enough time.
Yeah.
Just all around, but. For solo lane, the one I like to look at is the tower damage. Cyclone Spin dealing out a total of 12k. Mr. Mackey coming in at 1500. Meerkat last week having a total of 5191. But again, the per minute stat is what we should look at. 80 structure damage per minute coming out from Cyclone Spin. The next highest was Meerkat at 62 structure damage per minute. Osmos at 24 and Mr. Mackey at 19. So Cyclone Spin taking towers, and
Well, look at the gods he's playing.
yeah. If you look at the guys he's playing too. He played on her once and Rama once.
Yeah.
Gods that shred towers.
Yeah, and all of the gods he played, their push is ridiculous. Guan Yu with now they buffed him with he can shred now again with his Telu Assault. Chang'e with her never-ending heals and escapes.
And she never has to go back to buy.
Exactly. Aphrodite with her safe heals and clear.
And stun.
And stun.
And knockback.
Yeah, and her
and
Unity.
second Aegis.
Yeah. And then on her and Rom with their just ADC's like capability. So especially Rom. I think Rom is the safest lane clear ADC. Just because an ADC tends to stay in the wave, so he could be safe from any poke. But Rom's just like, okay, astral arrows, you're slowed, and you're gonna take a crap ton of damage. It's hard to get out of that.
You can't stay in lane against Apollo. You can't stay in lane against Neith, Rom, or Ola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On
her, it's questionable too or not because you can stop the impale from killing creeps, but.
Well, yeah. Well, you
got to take a hit.
You stand in front of the archers, and the archers will do more damage early game than you will.
Yeah. Absolutely. The other stat I like to look at over in the solo lane, because it always does give you a little bit of an extra boost, is healing. Mr. Mackey having 27.5k healing in a single game. In 2 games, having a total of 353 healing per minute. Cyclone Spin coming out with a total of 194 healing per minute. The only 2 healers, actually, from the solo lane. Although Cyclone Spin played 3 healers.
Yeah.
Everybody else played 1. So 30k healing coming out from Cyclone Spin across 3 games. 27k healing coming out from Mr. Mackey in 1 game.
The that raw heal.
Raw heal everybody all at once,
Yeah.
Can I quickly comment on the healing part?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the reason I'm just theorizing this because I can't recall the game exactly as where Mr. Mackey did 27k healing. I'm guessing every time a fight occurred, you guys either backed out and healed up, or you healed up and then went into a fight.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of times we'd start the fight. A lot of fights involved killing Bertracho because he tends to have poor positioning and bath taking, and he got so far behind on Ares that you could just blink Gebalt him, and if anybody else was close, they would get involved in the AoE and die too. So we'd melt Bertracho, and then as a result, they'd want to go in hard, in which they would like Nuwa ult and Nemesis ult, and he'd just pop Heavenly. We'd run out, heal up, as 5, just stand in his heal again and again, and then we could continue the siege, and they wouldn't have a support initiation, and they'd be down on 3 of their ults. And
Right.
and there's just nothing they could do about it.
Yeah, that shows where you get 27k healing in a single game when you all regroup with Heavenly, probably activated for the most part of that healing. You're going to do a lot of healing. And you would usually build cooldown on Mars. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some cooldown reduction on the 18-second heal.
He had
And
max,
then- Yeah, max cooldown reduction. And Cyclone Spin only played when he played Aphrodite, Guan Yu, and Chang'e. Now, Aphrodite would have a 12-second heal at maximum rank. Guan Yu has a 10-second heal now, and Chang'e also has a 10-second heal. But they all underperform on scaling and the amount of people they can heal. Aphrodite does more healing, but it only does it to one other person other than herself. I think in a span of 3 minutes, she does 25% more healing, but Ra can heal multiple people, of which I'm going to use the word counters, that's the wrong word, but counters what Aphrodite does. And Guan Yu and Chang'e are almost irrelevant because
At
they're...
that point of the game, yeah.
Well, I mean, in a team fight, you throw a big circle down on wherever it's happening. So, or you can back off and throw a big circle back here. So, yeah.
Like 340 healing from Guan as opposed to like easily over 100 per tick from Ra. Or you can have Chang'e's healing of 2. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever noticed and gone, "Oh, thanks Chang'e for that heal"?
Okay.
3 if she has Rod of Asclepius. Let's be fair. Let's be fair.
Okay. But yeah, Ra is insane in healing right now, and I would not like to see a solo laner with Ra ever. I think it's ban-worthy because of almost 30k healing in one match in the space of 41 minutes. That's like almost near enough 1k healing a minute. Actually, he got...
It mitigated pretty much all of one of the players from thirst damage. Nobody out-damaged his heal numbers.
Yeah.
Newell was close with like 2,700 or like slightly under, like by like 1,000 or 2 damage. But no, it pretty much mitigated all of his lane opponent's damage, and then he had 15 or 14k damage of his own, so he had a plus 14k damage on the Newell.
So that's insane. That just sounds like the positioning from the Ra, your team, and the enemy team was a major factor right there.
This is the reason we ban Ra.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
That's good
let's
stuff.
go on into the jungle. It's been a while since let's let Colme take over the top junglers. I'm happy about this one personally.
So am I.
Yeah,
So am
personally
I.
I
The
am.
top
'Cause
jungler
I think he deserved it.
over the past 2 weeks of the wild card. Wolfie with a 1544. Grishank with a 1318. And then right behind him is Unique with 1317.
1 point
1 point.
separates them. I mean, like we've said before, that could come in the form of 1 GPM. That could come in the form of 1 more structure damage per minute, 1 more player damage per minute. That could come from anywhere. So, but I'm really happy to see Wolfie up there. A lot of it does have to do with he did take a significant amount of damage, but no more than Grishank. And he did mitigate more, but you get more points for mitigation because that means your items are helping you out. He ended up going 29, 23, and 27. While not positive, or while not incredibly positive, he had an average of 5.8 kills per game. Next highest was Unique, or Uknik, as I've been informed that people call him now. He had 4 average kills, and Grishank at 2.6. And he had 4.6 deaths, Grishank at 4.4, Unique at 3.0. But he did have the lowest number of assists.
Yes.
Per average number.
Well,
of
and
assists.
that's from the kills. That's from getting most of the kills. Wolfie went ham. He went full ham in those last 2 games this weekend, and when he played against the Rambozos, he was 12-2 or something.
11-4.
11-4. So he played incredible. He played lights out that game. His team just could not compete with the Rambozos. I saw Wolfie just getting kills after kills after kills, and his team just could not follow up with it.
Yeah.
And here's what's funny is that the two teams that are moving on by the metric are the underperforming junglers this past week.
Yeah,
Over
but
the
they've
wildcard.
led in everything else.
They've led in everything
else.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
So you can see where the strengths of Thirst were. The 1544. So I mean the 1318 is 200 and something, 220 something like points difference. It's incredible. It's unfortunate that Wolfie could not move on with his team, But going back to that 1 point, it's right here in the player damage per minute. Grishank had 272, where Unique had.
That's damage mitigation.
Damage mitigation. That's where
But
I
even
think
still,
the difference. I think that's where the difference is. That's that 1 point, because they're like he leads here, and he's less there. Like
he leads in player. You talking about Unique and Grishank?
yeah,
Yeah. Grishank leads in player damage per minute at 432. He leads in damage taken at 654. But Unique, and he leads in damage mitigation at 272. So, you don't get all those points. You get a percentage of those points. So, just get a little bit ends up making the difference. But, you go back to Unique having the most farm at 480, Wolfie 453, Grishank at 438. But the player damage coming out from Wolfie was 567.82 across 137 minutes in 5 games. He did 567.82 player damage per minute, not only topping out the per minute charge, but also the total charge, 77.7k player damage. Next highest was Grishank at 69.9, basically 70k.
And that came from Nemesis.
3 of them came from Three of the games he played was from Nemesis, and
that half of someone's health is
yeah,
a lot of damage.
Yeah, and I think it just comes from Wolfie really trying to put the team on his back this week, and I'm excited about what next season will bring for Thirst, especially if they can keep a roster together, and and get the synergy that we talked about a few weeks, past few weeks. I think that's something that'll come into play next season.
Absolutely. Well, that kind of brings us into the final stage of this, which is the predictions for the upcoming weeks, and with that is strictly the regionals, and we have the way the regionals work. In case you guys don't know, it will be 4th seed against 5th seed, 3rd seed against 6th seed, with 1st and 2nd seeds having a bye.
Mm-hmm.
1st seed is Cog Red, 2nd seed is Cog Prime, 3rd seed is Snipe, 4th is Dig, 5 is Fat Chunks, and 6 is the Rambozos, which means Dig and Fat Chunks will be playing against each other, and Snipe and the Rambozos will be playing against each other. So we're going to go around the table, give predictions, and see where things end up. So the first game that we will talk about is Dig versus the Chunks. Scotch?
That's best of 3, right?
Yep, yeah. It will be a best of three set. And the finals is a best of 5.
I think Chunks take 1 game off of Dig, but Dig pulls through.
Okay. Ash, got him?
I'd like Dig to go through, but I feel like Chunks, with some more confidence in their back from the Wildcards, might have some more cheese to come through with.
Okay.
This is Atlanta vid.
Yep, this is true. This is Atlanta.
So does that mean they're a few patches behind? As in, they're not with the up-to-date client, or?
I'm just saying it's Dig at the land, even though it's a new Dig. I'm just saying.
I don't think there'll be patches behind.
Will they have Sylvanas? Will Ra be slightly nerfed?
I think they'll.
Oh yeah.
Patch that's about to come out on Tuesday.
Yeah, because what? It's November 22nd, right?
Yeah. So they should have that patch.
Okay, I think Chunks may have something, but I will assume Dig will take it.
Okay. Call me.
I'm gonna go Dig, just because they've been playing a lot better towards the end, once they solidified their team chemistry.
Yeah. Adura, I'll throw it over to you before I give my prediction. What do you think?
I think the pressure gets to Chunks in the first game, and Zapman just turns it on like he always does for LAN, and like 15-0, and dominates that game. I think the second and third game could go either way. If Chunks get used to the pressure and are able to stop Zap from getting big, it could go either way. But I think Dig should probably take it in 3 games.
Okay, cool. I tend to agree. I think the way it's going to happen is Dig will take game 1. Game 2 will go to Chunks with a bit of a relaxing from Dig, and then Dig will come back and go, okay, no. We win this. Sorry, we lose. And it'll knock them out. So I think it'll happen in 3 as well. So I think everybody pretty much kind of agrees. It's looking like it's going to be Dig. Chunks has a chance, but it's looking like it's going to be Dig. Let's just go into the Snipe Rambozos game. A little bit controversial, so we do have a Duro here. So I'll throw this one over to Scotch. You get to be the first one to make a prediction here.
All right.
Throw you under the bus.
I don't know if Snipe's a scrimjar or not, and you don't have to say anything, but Snipe played very well the last 2 weeks of the SPL. But I think since they don't have maybe much experience with y'all, I think maybe y'all could catch them off guard the first game. And if y'all get on a roll and Snipe doesn't really perform the way that they did the last 2 weeks in the SPL, I think y'all have a chance to pull this one out. But I'm going to give it to Snipe. But I'm going to say it's going to go... It's going to go the distance in the best of 3.
Okay. Shadow?
I'm really unsure of this matchup because, in all honesty, I don't know the Rambozos at all. And in that regards, I kind of have something to go off because Snipe do have something to prove. There are players in there that have been in the competitive scene for a while. Whereas the Rambozos has obviously came out quite strong. They came through the Challengers Cup. They came through the Wildcards. So they do have a lot of success already. I'd like to see the Rambozos because I like to see the underdogs come out. I'm not saying you are the underdogs, but you didn't come from the SPL, whereas Snipe did. So Snipe have not had so much success in the past few months, whereas the Rambozos clearly have. So I think that will actually carry on into the series, and you guys will power through because you want to win, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you guys can take it.
Just don't let Allied have Freya.
Come?
Incon though. No. I would like to say Snipe takes it in 2 games, but from what I've seen the Rambozos do this past week, it's pretty strong. Like I think it's gonna be pretty strong. I think it's gonna be a tough hard thing. But I think the chemistry of Snipe in the sense of their past experiences in lands and in the SPL and stuff like that might prove to be a little too much in the sense of they might take advantage of a lead and they might just like snowball. Like I said, I want to say I would like for the Rambozos to win it. I would say Rambozos would take it, but I think it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be, game 1. They might take game 1, like Scott said, because Snipe might not be ready for them. But Snipe's going to take game 2, and then it's going to be game 3, and I think it's going to be like a 40-minute slugfest.
The way I see it, we all know and we've all heard Snipe is an emotional team. A little less so with some of the roster changes, but we've heard they're an emotional team. They get down, they get in their heads. And that's something that the Rambozos are going to have to take advantage of, which I'm sure you guys are fully aware of. And so here's my thought on it. If Rambozos, let me back up. If Snipe has not taken these last 2 weeks to practice like they should, I'm not saying they haven't been practicing. I'm saying practice like they should. Rambozos absolutely has a foot in.
Yeah.
If they have been practicing like they should, they still have a foot in. I mean, they just played against Chunks. Previously, they played against 5 Ranking Men, did well. They came up to the Challengers Cup, did very well. And if Rambozos can get Snipe on tilt, that could be the thing that determines a win from a loss for those 2 teams.
Yeah, if y'all come out the first game and just dominate them, I think that puts them back in a hole.
Yep. Aduro, let's throw it over to you. I think I have a sneaking suspicion this week. You'll predict.
TSM.
Yeah, TSM. That's right.
I think Snipe should be the 2-1 favorites just because of everything. They're the most. Their team, other than Cog Red, they play like the team of the most out of any team in NA. And that did not happen until Xing left. I think because Xing, of who Xing is, he's a really good player, and he created Snipe, and he sort of, when he did that, he was sort of set to be the star of Snipe, right? So it, as a result, made the team revolve around Xing, and Xing could be a bit reckless, and Xing sometimes. So they sort of rose and fell with him.
Mm-hmm.
But when Xing left for Dig and then got weakened, they didn't really have this star. And even the star they had, I guess, most people would say is Incon, and that's in support. So...
Killsteller.
Yeah. A support is a star that makes... support being a star isn't the same as a jungler being a star, who...
Right.
You can't revolve... The support being... doesn't get fed and all this stuff, and can't really, carry the... He could carry fights, but not the same as, the fed assassin or mage. or hunter even like Zap.
Yeah.
So it just makes them is like the most complete team that plays well together, and I think that's like they don't stand out, but that aspect of them is so underrated. So I think they're a really good team, and that's why they're so good against Cog Prime is they beat them a lot. I think we should be able to come out and take at least one game off them, if we do just really surprise them and just get what we want early and just things seems to go our way. And then if the second game, or if we don't take a game like, if we take a game like that, they'll be ready for the early stuff and they'll be able to adapt very quickly and play very well as a team. And we'd have to put out something really, I shouldn't say really unconventional, but unpredicted by them that they are unprepared for. And if we do that, we could take the second game. But if they are able to adapt for that sort of unconventional thing, then they should take the 2 games.
Awesome. Well, I think that that one's a little bit more on the fence, so I don't want to try to make us kind of speculate into that round 2 on this one. We were all pretty solid on the other matchup, so let's not speculate anymore. Let's wait to see who wins those games and who gets on to round 2 for that best of 5 against Cog Prime. But anybody else have anything else I want to say before we wrap this up? Awesome. Well, real quick before we do our closing, Aduro, where can people find you on Twitter, Twitch, and all those other great places?
On Twitter, it's F6. It's Aduro with the 0 in the Aduro, and Twitch is just Aduro.
Awesome. Well, for everyone here at Next Wave Gaming, we want to say thank you, Aduro, for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the conversation, and thanks for being part of it. And for everyone who's watching from Next Wave Gaming, for Colme, myself, Scott737, Shadow Venom, and everyone else on the team, we want to say thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys give us a follow on Twitter at Next Wave Gaming and hit the subscribe button. Make sure you give us comments. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what information you'd want to see. We keep track of stats, and there's other stats we can keep track of, but if we don't keep track of something or don't talk about something you want to know about, just let us know. We're expanding. We have a new website that should be on its way soon. It should be out by the end of October and beginning of November, which is going to display all the stats that we talk about here. So you'll be able to see them. And we have some awesome stuff coming down the pipeline. I know Scotch is working on some stuff. I'm working on some stuff. Colme's got some stuff in the works. Keep an eye out for our competitive team who's practicing right now, and they're going to be trying to make their way into the scene next season. Once again, for everyone at Next Wave Gaming, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys at the regionals.